everybody. Welcome to Worldview Finder. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Big news this week. The new Zelda game launched, Tears of the Kingdom.
It's pretty serious.
And it's the sequel to Breath of the Wild, which is my favorite game of all time. Like, it is incredible.
I'd say mine too. For sure.
It was one of those games where, so I haven't played the new one yet because I had to get tires for my car and my kids have to eat. So it's $70. I don't know why. I do know why, because it took a long time to make that game. But it was Breath of the Wild. It was one of those games where, like, I watched videos of it and I was like, oh, this looks fun. Like, it looks like a good game. But until you actually play it, you're like, oh, now I get it. Because it's like you're in the world and you're like walking around and you're like, okay, I'm going to go do this thing over here. I see this thing. I'm going towards it. But as you're going towards it, you're like, oh, on the map there's a lake-shaped heart. There's a heart that's shaped like a lake. And it's
a lake-shaped heart.
Whatever it is. You're like, oh, I'm going to go do that. And then there's like a whole quest line around this lake. And you're like doing that. And then like 2 hours go by and I didn't do the thing that I was going to do in the first place. So apparently the reviews have been saying that this game makes Breath of the Wild feel like a prototype.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah. Oh. It's just massive.
Can't wait to play
and you can like make things and do all this stuff. And they said it's just amazing. So I'm excited to jump into that. But you watched what?
Yeah, so I also haven't played it. But what I do is sometimes I live vicariously through people who play it on the internet. So there's this big YouTuber that is super into Zelda, and he did a live stream where he played like the first 9 hours of the game. And over a couple days, I watched like 4 hours of it.
Those 9 hours.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was very good. So I felt like I learned a lot about the game. And because maybe it was different for you, but sometimes, I mean, even with Breath of the Wild, I think I watched it more on YouTube than I actually played it myself.
Really?
So, yeah, it's
because people discover different things and do things different
where
ways.
I watched a lot of people like speed run the game where they...
Well, even years after that game came out, there's like 5 things you still don't know about Breath of the Wild. And and people find new things. You're like, this is crazy.
Because it's so...
Yeah. And
the world is so big.
That's what, like this one they said, they just said yes and so they took a lot of the footage, like a lot of the things that people did in the first one that you really like weren't supposed to do, but they just figured it out. Because there's like videos of people like on rocks just launching themselves across the entire map. And you're like, what? How did they figure that out? And so the creators of Zelda were like, well, let's just make everybody be able to do that. And so they've made like the new thing in this one, like there's a crafting system that you can like make things. But I always get worried about crafting stuff because I'm like, I'm not good at that. But they said it was like, it's very easy. You just like attach something to it. And so like, there's like a platform. You just attach 4 rockets to it and then you can just fly anywhere and stuff.
Goodness.
Yeah, I've seen on TikTok now because I've watched a couple of videos and people create these crazy creations in there. One was like he built this like airplane that dropped bombs and he could maneuver it and decide when to drop the bombs on all these enemies.
But at what point does it get like overwhelming to you guys? Because
I know because that's what to me it sounds like overwhelming. But so far all the reviewers are like, because they're like, oh, we started playing it the first this is where it's crazy. They're like the first 10 hours in, you're like, oh, this just feels like a direct sequel to Breath of the Wild. And then they're like, he's like, but then at 20 hours in, I'm like, oh, I get it, because it introduces the stuff so slowly that you're like, oh, okay, I get this
now
concept.
I can go back to that other area and add these things.
And do these things, because they were talking about like, because there's sky temples in this one. You can go way up in the sky and do stuff, and they're like, he's like, there's like these crazy puzzles to get to these things. He's like, or you just build a launching platform and just go up to the top and get it. And you're like, he's like, you can play it how you want. And so that's where it's like, okay, if I want to go through all the puzzles and do this, or do I just want to just cheat it and go to the top? It's like, but it's not cheating because it's like they've designed it to do what you want. And so
the kind of the sandbox aspect of it, I think that's why Minecraft was so popular, because people make like games inside of Minecraft because you can do anything and create anything.
The children, they yearn for the mind.
Minecraft, the greatest, it's the most popular game of like 2019 or whatever. But there is so much that you can do in there, and so I think Zelda is opening up that sandbox where the limits are, there's no limits basically.
And the creator said they wanted you to feel like I'm the first person to do this, like I'm the because they said they've made Zelda games all these years, and they're like, oh, we want to make a game Like, because Zelda was kind of like that. Like, you beat a dungeon, you're like, am I the first person to do this? Because you figure out stuff, and you're like, oh, I feel really smart. Yeah. Portal 2 was like that for me.
Oh, yeah.
Ever played Portal
That's funny.
2?
I was going to talk about Portal 2.
Oh, man. Because that was one of those games where I'm like, I would complete a puzzle. I'm like, I don't know if I did this right, but I feel like I'm the first one to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why that game was great. So that's why I'm excited about this game, because I'm like, and in this one they said we want it to be the first time that somebody does this. So you like watch a video like, I can't believe they did that.
Yeah.
And so you're like,
oh man. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the worldview of Zelda.
Oh man.
Oh.
It's crazy. It's just the bad guy always comes back. But
yeah. So wait, is this one the same world as Breath of the Wild?
Yes. So
they
take the Breath of the Wild map.
Yeah.
And they've kind of changed some of the because I don't know if it's broke apart. You can probably speak more to that, but yeah. But there's these sky islands now.
Okay.
And then, spoiler, there's a whole underground kingdom.
What? Spoiler alert.
Okay.
It's apparently as big as the regular map.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. That's
I have not enough time in
I know, that's
my life to play this game.
Gosh, there goes
8 months of your life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think the worldview a lot of times it's very like weird spiritual stuff.
Yeah,
like
it is. Yeah, there's lots of fairies.
The Triforce.
Triforce.
But it's ultimate evil trying to ruin the world. He's like trying to take over Hyrule, and then the hero of time wakes up from his weird slumber every time.
His weird slumber.
He's like, what's going on here? And then he goes and he has to fight for good.
Yeah.
And the magical people help him along the way. Magical fairies. But yeah, I mean, it's a story of good versus evil.
Yeah.
And the ultimate evil like taking over, and there's a lone hero that comes and saves the day. And his name's not Zelda, it's Link.
It's Link.
Which is confusing sometimes.
It is.
Zelda just helps him. I think she becoming more prominent, because her personality came out a lot more in Breath of the Wild, but I think they're even implying that she has a lot more to do in this new one.
Oh really? I don't know. I don't know anything about the story in this one, so thanks for spoiling it for me.
It's in
Zelda's
trailer.
back.
It's in the
yeah, I know.
Zelda trailer.
Zelda's back. Yeah.
Zelda.
So, the worldview a lot of times in those, like in that game, because all of them are very similar. The games, like it's like the bad guy is Ganon, and like every once in a while they throw in a different bad guy.
Yeah, but it's like Ganondorf or
Ganondorf.
The Ganon. Bad guy.
So yes, Ganon. But I feel like he's the same bad guy, but like Zelda just supposedly changes over. Link. It's like a different Link.
It's a different.
I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. But I was thinking, like, do you have any crazy video game stories, like where you stayed up late playing a game, or you like went and got a game early, or got a console, like stood in line for a long time?
Well, I was going to talk about Portal 2. This is one where I got in trouble because
Nintendo brain.
Yeah, it was. It was a case of Nintendo brain where my husband and I, but he was my boyfriend at the time. We got Portal 2, and we were playing at his house, and it's so addictive, and you're like, I've got to learn, beat this level, and it's a 2-player game, so you're trying to like work it out together.
If you never played Portal, it's just you shoot portals, they like make a hole, and then you
basically have to get from one side of the room to the other.
Yeah, you make an entrance hole and an exit hole with your portal gun. And then you
just jump through and come out the other portal, It's just like a mind game, really. Like a puzzle game. But anyways.
So you were playing.
We were playing, realized that it was like 3 a.m.
Oh, gosh.
So I was
This is when you were still living at home?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I was still living at home. So I went home. There was a note on my door.
No. Oh, no.
From my mom that just said, like,
pack your bags.
I can't remember what it said. It said something like, you don't have a curfew, but this is pushing it, or something. And I wrote a note back, and I was like, I wrote something like, sorry, your nerdy daughter had Nintendo brain.
So,
I was like, we were literally playing video games.
Oh my goodness.
3
in the morning.
So I had it was Resident Evil 5, which I can't recommend that. But a friend of mine, because all the Resident Evil games, there's no co-op, but 5 there was. And so me and my friend were playing. He lives in New York, and I live in Evansville. And so we were playing this game. But this was when my wife worked at a Great Harvest Bread, so she got up super early. And so it was like 4 in the morning my time, 5 his time, and both of our wives got up while we were playing this game.
Oh, goodness.
And so I heard his wife.
Goodness.
His wife was not happy, and my wife Angela was like, "Hey, good morning. I'm going to work." I was like, "See you later."
I'm still playing.
Yeah. So it was just funny because she knows who she married.
She knows.
But my friend, like, his wife was not happy with him. But oh yeah. I have so many, like, because when I got the Switch, like, I went the midnight opening of Walmart and, like, didn't have a ticket or anything and just walked in and, like, there was, like, 20 spaces and I got, like, 19. I was like, sweet, got my Switch.
Got your Switch.
Nice.
Do you have any weird
I mean, I've gone to, like, midnight releases, and back in, like, junior high and high school, it was just my thing where I would go home from school, and then I would just play Call of Duty until I went to bed. Like, that was my life. So it was just an ongoing thing of just playing an absurd amount. So
yeah, I have too many video game stories. That would take like 20 podcasts to fill. But yeah, Zelda, very near and dear to my heart. Like, my favorite games ever was Ocarina of Time, and then Breath of the Wild overthrew that. And I was like, man, so good.
Yeah, we were talking before, like, we're the original, like, YouTubers, because I just would sit and watch you play them when I was young. Yeah. And that was my, like, entertainment.
Mr. Twitch.
There you go.
You're the original Twitch.
Yeah, that's funny. But, yeah, so have you ever, like, missed something because you were playing a video game? Like, you, like, were supposed to be somewhere with somebody, or you were supposed to, like, you skipped class or anything?
I intentionally skipped school, like, when a new Call of Duty came out.
Oh, man.
So it's like, the next day I just don't go to school.
Bank on a video game.
I mean, when E3 was a thing, that's like a big expo thing.
Yeah.
Like, I would take off work to watch it.
To watch it.
Yeah,
he's like, this is gonna be a day.
Well, yeah, because they have, like, that's when all the new, like, video games were announced, and, like, they'd show crazy trailers and have demos and stuff.
It's like the Apple events, but for video games.
Yes, and I would miss things. Would you say you ghosted somebody?
Oh, seamless segue.
Okay, so I watched the new Apple Plus film Ghosted, starring Chris Evans and Ana de Armas. She's in the first Knives Out movie.
Okay.
So, but Chris Evans, Captain America.
Does he play Captain America in this?
He always.
Okay. It's just Captain America in this movie.
He plays a nerdy guy. He's like kind of a plant nerd. He likes
those plant nerds.
He likes his plants. So here's the thing. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't have Apple Plus. If you get the Target app, you have Apple Plus. Like, they give you free, like, months of Apple Plus, like the Apple TV Plus.
Chris, you preach the Target app getting Apple Plus so much.
I do, because people don't know.
People don't know.
People are like, oh, Apple Plus. And, like, yeah, like, you can
get the Target app.
Get the Target app, and you get, like, 4 months free, which is a long time. You can watch all the Apple Plus stuff.
You heard it here, folks.
There's some good stuff on Apple Plus.
Like Ghosted, apparently.
Ghosted. Again, if we talk about something, we're not necessarily recommending it. Yeah. It is PG-13, so there are PG-13 words in it, and scenes, I would say. So, so the premise of the whole movie is Chris Evans falls in love. Well, he meets this girl, and they have a good date and all this stuff. This is in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. So they have a nice date and all this stuff, and then the next day he, like, goes to text her, and, like, she doesn't respond. Like, she ghosts him. That's what. This has nothing to do with ghosts, like that, because I thought, like that.
It's the concept of being ghosted, as in, like, the social.
Yeah. When you ghost somebody, you don't respond to their text or anything. Yeah. But is that even a popular word anymore? Like, I haven't heard that term in a while. Like, I know it's still a thing, but
I think ghosted, or they left me on red.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah, ghosted, I feel like it's kind of an older term. That's why, like, I was like, oh, is this like a ghost hunting movie? It is not.
Yeah. That's what I thought.
So like, he keeps texting her and all this stuff, and then she doesn't ever text him back, and then he finds out that she's overseas, and he goes to visit her over there, and
after one date.
Yeah, that's part of the plot. So then he gets there, and, like, he's wrapped up in this spy thing or whatever, because she's a spy.
Oh, okay.
And he works for the CIA. Was an art dealer, like she said. And so now they think all the bad guys think that he is the spy person that they've been tracking all this time. And so she's like, it's just her rescuing him for the rest of the movie. but he wrestled in high school, so he does fight some people. but it's the typical. I don't know if you saw Man from Toronto that was on Netflix with Kevin Hart, where he like gets mistaken. He goes to the not Uber, what's the house thing, a Verbo or whatever, and he gets there and it's like, oh, there's a torture thing happening, and they mistake him for the Man of Toronto, and they think he's a bad guy.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like those.
Okay.
I don't know if you've like
mistaken for a bad guy trope.
Mistaken for a spy, and so and the bad guys are after them or whatever. But this also like weaves in like romantic comedy elements and stuff.
Of course.
Yeah.
So overall, like, I mean, it was a decent movie. Like, it wasn't anything that I'm like, oh, this was Oscar worthy or anything. Like, it was a fun hour and a half,
what was
2
the
hours.
Worldview?
So the Worldview, there's always this underlying like dating worldview in like shows, movies, all this stuff. That
I have a
like,
love triangle. Well, maybe not a triangle.
Oh, there was. Yeah, there was a guy that like just briefly.
I didn't even have to see it.
But there was one like great scene that was just full of cameos nice. And it was really funny because they were very funny cameos. You're like, oh, this is good. And it's very unexpected, like several of the things that happen. I won't spoil it, but so the dating worldview is just like, oh, you meet somebody, you like them, and then you sleep together, like the first date. Like, so I also didn't understand their first date because they like went to an art thing and then like went out to eat or got drinks afterward or whatever, and then it's like morning and you're like, what? Like they like stayed out all night. Like they didn't do anything.
Playing Portal 2.
Yeah, I know.
They just stayed out all night.
Yeah, but like it didn't really show anything other than like they had dinner and then like the next thing it's like the morning and they're like walking to their house. And you're like, what happened in the rest of the night? Like they're like nothing happened, but
just talking or whatever, like implied.
Yeah, so
just, like, out.
Yeah, so they really enjoyed each other's company and all this stuff. Well, so then she goes in her house and she's like, okay, don't make bad choices, and he's like, I always let him go or something, and then that's when like you can skip that next little 2 minutes or whatever because then they start making out and all that. But it's like
for 2 minutes.
I don't know how long it was, but that's what the thing like with. Like a lot of these shows and movies now and like TV, like all this stuff, it's like when you date somebody, like that's just part of dating. Like you're going to have sex. Like that's just like, that's the dating scene. And it's like, there's no, love is kind of a second, like love is a afterthought of like, because I remember Chuck, the TV show, like there's like this moment where like these two people sleep together and then like later they're like, he's like, I think you might be in love. And he's like, what? That's a big step. Like, what? You are like, like they make it like it's just a thing that people do, and it's not anything special. It's not anything like that's made for covenant marriage like God intended. But it's just like, oh, this is what people do, and so that always frustrates me. Like I'm just like, you don't understand. Like, and so then he does make poor choices. He goes over, but. So one of the plot pieces, I hate when movies do this. It's like they have this one thing in the plot that like they have to have for them to get from A to B.
Yeah.
But then like never mention that thing again. And so like he has asthma and he's forgetful, and so he puts tags on all his stuff. So that's why he knows where she is. But like he doesn't need his inhaler the rest of the movie other than just to get over to Europe or whatever. You're like, come on, guys. Like at least at the end scene,
that would
he's
be
like,
funny if he's like fighting and needs to
use
his inhaler.
Because they kind of imply it like at the beginning, like he needs it, and then later he's like, oh, I need my inhaler, and that's when he like finds out that she's overseas. Like, oh, that's weird. But but the other worldview, they talk a lot about the cactus. Because he sells plants and stuff. That's how they met. Like, because she's not home very much, and she's like, I need a plant that like doesn't require much care. And so he's like, oh well, there's this plant, like you water it like twice a month or something. She's like, well,
it's too much work.
Yeah, she's like, sometimes I'm not, like sometimes I'm gone for like 2 months or something.
Yeah.
And so then like they kind of. He won't sell her the plant, and he's like, what? You're just gonna kill this? And she's like, you can't not sell me this plant. And he's like,
I won't do it.
Yeah, I can. And it's like not even. It's like a farmer's market. It's not even a stand. He's just watching it for somebody else. What? And she's like, so they have this like big fight or whatever over this plant, so they talk about cactus, and it's like a cactus doesn't need much care. Like you just water it once and it's fine. And so they talk about like throughout the movie, it's them talking about their relationship of like they both don't really want. Like she doesn't want anything that like you have to be committed to and things like that because her line of work, she's gone a lot and things like that. And so it's like, I don't want to put time and effort into this, and like, why can't people be more like cactuses where they're not needy, they don't need anything, and so he's kind of the needy person that she's like, I thought you said you were a cactus, and like, and so they fight a lot throughout the movie. But there was one point, I don't even remember what it was. I was just like, man, Chris Evans is a really good actor. Like, I don't remember why I thought that, but yeah, it was just really funny.
He refused to sell her the plane.
Yeah, but it was just, I was like, oh, this is good, but. Now I'm thinking about it more. I think I liked it more than I thought I did. Because after I was like, this is okay. But now I'm like, oh, there's some funny.
That's a good movie.
It was pretty good. But that worldview in there of of just do whatever you want when you're dating. Like, that's just part of dating. Like, that I don't like. There is an F word and a couple S words. So just be careful. Like, parents, you might want to screen it before you watch it with your kids. But like in the last scene, like there was a cool set piece. I was like, oh, this is. I've not seen this in an action movie before. It's pretty sweet. So cool. There's some good stuff. But overall, it's like talking about, do our relationships, like, are they needy and clingy? But like how that, like, that's important, that we do need people in our life. Like, it's she just tried to push people away and realized like, oh, I do need people. And he tried to just like, when he have a relationship, would just jump way in. Because even after the first day, he's like, I think this might be the one. And his sister's like, you're crazy. And he's like, I'm not needy. He's like, you're going over to Europe, because the dad's like, yeah, you should go get your inhaler back from Europe. And he's like, I think I will. And he's like, what? I mean, they're just arguing stuff. But yeah.
I think it's interesting because I do think that not only in movies, but just in pop culture, it is the thought of that being in love, I saw one meme. It was like, I'll have sex with someone, but holding hands, that's like the next commitment after it. It's like, so
it's like public.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, as far as commitment, sleeping with someone is down here now, and then being in love with them is like, well, I got to really be committed to them then.
Yeah.
Which is crazy and so backwards.
Yeah. But with the other thing, I do think that, I think we all desire that love and to be needed and stuff. But relationships aren't just that. There is sacrifice. There is harder parts of the relationship. So people want kind of the love, but they don't want to put in the work. So that's where that comes in. Well, it's like, well, I just want to have someone that's there when I want them. Yeah. And then I don't have any responsibility.
Like the cactus.
Exactly.
Yeah. Except but when you think about the cactus, it's like it just sits there. It doesn't do anything back. Yeah. It doesn't give you anything back except just like it's there.
A flower like once a year.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's like that part of the relationship where it's like, I want you to do this stuff for me, but I just want to sit here. Or like, I don't want you to require a lot of maintenance. But it's like, you're asking that of them too. Right. So it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they kind of wrestle with that throughout the movie. Like because they argue quite a bit. But the cactus part is really funny because they keep bringing it back in and stuff. We're like,
now, as a person who can't keep plants alive, I relate to that. Because it's like, if it needs to be watered once a week, like I'll walk past it and I'll be there all the time, and then I'll just watch it slowly die.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Or I just never plant it, so I don't keep plants alive.
Well, all right. Oh, it's time for a
boy.
Speaking of keeping things alive.
Yeah, hey, good transition. So last week we talked about the bats, about like how
Florida has some crazy
couldn't keep them in there. But now it's there's a new license plate coming out, Protect the Panthers license plate. It's important. This picture of this mom and her baby panther. But it's
a mom and a baby panther, or is it a mom panther and a baby?
A mom panther.
Oh, okay. You said this mom and a baby panther.
Well, but the reason it's important is because the mom and the baby were pictured north of the Caloosahatchee River.
Oh yeah, the Caloosahatchee.
Yeah, so it's north of that. But apparently, panthers are not doing good in Florida, and so they're on the endangered species list, and they're all like most of them are south of this river. And so now there's some north.
Florida has gators, bats, bears, as we learned
bears,
before.
Bears, beasts, and Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, and now panthers.
But if you purchase this license plate, it helps protect them. But motorists can help by observing all posted speed limits, especially in panther zones. So this is like
there's Panther Zone.
You're entering a Panther Zone.
So yeah, don't get out and use the bathroom in the Panther Zone. Apparently, I don't know.
This sounds like Wesselman Woods, where it's like the Salamander Crossing.
Yeah, our local park. Yeah, Salamander Crossing. That's funny. But yeah, but there's Panther zones that apparently you have to watch out for panthers. I've seen deer crossing and stuff like that. That's normal. But Panther zones, I just they call them Panther zones. It's not Panther Crossing. Just this is where
the whole zone for them.
This is where the panthers live. So so Florida's like the miniature Australia to me, because Australia has crazy
spiders
that eat birds and stuff,
and
there's a picture of this field, and you're like, oh, there's snow, and they're like, no, that's spider webs. You're like, I am not going to visit there.
Yeah, there's no reason.
Sharks eat people. It's great. The snakes. It's bonkers. But yeah, Florida feels like that. It's
small version.
What you were just protecting everything that is deadly. It was just sorry, bats are in your house. This is a panther zone, so you have to let them swim in your pool.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. If the panther comes in your house before June 15th, you have to let it stay.
There's a panther in the bedroom. Don't go in the guest room. What?
So I have my own Florida foible. Where the cab driver taking me from the airport to Disney World,
which is in a panther zone.
Yeah, Disney World is a panther zone, so it's protected.
I heard there's cougar zones.
He would tell us about. He was telling us about his he has alligators that are in his pool. He just finds them in his pool. And we were like, well, what do you do? And he's like, I shoot him. What? And he's like, you don't say it. Don't tell anyone. You're not supposed to do that or whatever.
Don't tell anybody on this worldwide podcast.
It was so many years ago. Plus, how are they going to track down which cab driver?
Oh, they know who it was.
His name was Stan.
Yeah.
Cab number 34.
But we were like, well, what do you do after you kill him? And he's like, I'll eat him. It's this is getting weirder and weirder.
It's Florida.
It's Florida.
Make shoes out of them.
Why am I not surprised? Florida is just weird.
Pool gators. Good eating. All right, we're going to continue on with Wes Anderson. I don't know why Wes Anderson. No, talking about AI, because AI is a big thing now with Chat GPT. GPT?
Yeah.
GPT.
What's that stand for? General Population...
Transportation.
Okay, so
we obviously know
Chat GPT, but people have been making Wes Anderson films.
The TikTok trend.
Yes, so it's a trend, a TikTok trend where it's if my life were Wes Anderson, and it's got the little dee music, and then people make their life look like Wes Anderson, but now they're doing if Lord of the Rings were Wes Anderson or
I've
all
not
this.
Seen these.
I've seen the Star Wars one.
Yeah, the Star Wars one. There's a couple of them, but they use AI to because Wes Anderson always uses the same actors like Adrian Brody, Bill Murray,
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, a lot of the actors are the same. So people use AI to get those actors, and Bill Murray's Gandalf and they put them in. So at first, the first one I saw, I thought that these actors had done a spoof.
Yeah.
But they hadn't. It was just AI.
Wow.
So now I've seen some articles that are stop, using our faces for AI. People are getting mad because they're I wasn't in this. I didn't do this.
Yeah.
And so I've just heard that the trend for AI is people are going to have to start patenting their voices and their faces.
Because you heard about, I think it's Drake. Making Drake songs, and because you can write to ChatGPT, hey, make me a song in the style of Drake.
Yeah.
And then then you can come up with AI Drake beats, and then there's the voice, the AI voices stuff, and so it's you're making Drake songs that sound like what he would write, and people are like, oh, this is actually really good. You're oh, this is a good, but you're does that break the law? Because you're creating it by coming up with the beat and all this stuff, but you're using AI to make, because you're not going to be famous like Drake.
The scam. Have you guys heard the scam where people call and they're like, this is your granddaughter.
I don't have a granddaughter.
Where they say this is your, or I'm your granddaughter, and then usually the older person will say Melissa, and they're like, yeah, it's Melissa, and then they say I've done, I've gotten in a wreck, I need money, all that kind of stuff, don't tell mom and dad. Well, now they're sampling voices.
Oh, Melissa's voice.
Big brain.
Yes. So this woman said that her daughter called her. There's a news story where her daughter called her, and it was her daughter's voice. But it was not her daughter.
Her daughter had been dead for 20 years.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Ghosted.
So, I mean, like, that's what I think we need to talk about, the worldview of AI, using AI, like, oh man.
It's the wild, wild west right now. There are no rules.
There are no rules.
I think that's what people are trying to figure out because I mean, I've seen that. One of my favorite ones. It's super funny. It's kind of bad, but it's very funny. So they get all the different presidents to play different video games, and it's their voices. So like
nice.
You'll have Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and George Bush playing Minecraft together.
But they did one of the Zelda games. They like
they did a tier list.
They ranked the Zelda games of like which one's A tier, B tier, S tier.
My favorite.
There's lots of swears in
my
it.
favorite is Gandalf and Boromir. And I think like Elrond, the three of them are watching Rings of Power and commenting on it.
Yeah,
and it's
crazy.
So funny.
That does sound really good.
Yeah.
Is it like the whole thing, or is it just like a
just like clips?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like TikToks of them. Oh my goodness, it's so funny.
See, and to me, like I love that. So, like, but that like okay, this is not like obviously the presidents aren't.
Or are they?
Yeah, but
Ghosted.
Then you have because you've always had like people like portraying the presidents. It's like an SNL and all that. So like they dress up like them, do their voices, all that stuff. But like this is a level of like I don't know if this is real or not. Like, oh yeah, Trump had this phone call with so and so. You're like, but did he? Like,
right. But that's what I'm saying is like it distorts our view of reality where we don't know what is real and what's not.
What is real?
There is one thing talking about what's real, what's not. So there's an AI thing called Midjourney, and it's able to create this photorealistic images of, and you can give it prompts. So it was like the Pope walking with this giant big white puffer jacket.
Oh,
and because it looks very real.
That's not real?
No, it's not real. Did you think it was real?
I thought it was real this whole time.
See? Yeah, so that was AI. So people they're seeing these things, and there was another one where it was like all these kids in a library, and it looked like they were like in a cult. And like they were studying all this cult stuff in a library.
Wait, that's not real?
That's not real. And the Pope was in the back with the puffer jacket.
I know.
But people on the Facebook comments are like, "This is terrible. Why would they be teaching little kids this in a library?" And
so it looks like a teacher is teaching them cult
stuff?
Oh,
so
man.
it's this weird stuff. But I mean, obviously with the Pope thing, it looks so real. You can't tell what's real and what's not.
Well, then people start making jokes about it and all that. So I thought that's why I thought it was real, was because people were like taking it and making jokes from it. I was like, the Pope is so cool.
Because there's that website, This Is Not a Real Person or something, where it's just like these AI generated faces that look like people that you might know, but they're not. And so
I ran into our friend Dan Sullivan, who,
what up, Dan?
Yeah, he asked us to restart this podcast. I ran into him, and he said that one of like the biggest sellers on Amazon right now or something is a finger, and people will wear it when they like if they want to do crime, because they'll say it's
do crime.
I want to do crime.
Hey, I want to do some crime.
They're committing a crime.
They are committing. They want to do
crime.
No, but they'll wear it because then if they get accused of anything, they'll say, "Look, it's AI." Because right now AI like messes up on hands or things like that.
You have the AI finger pull the trigger.
Yeah.
Have you seen the AI 80s generated commercials?
No.
Where they're like make us a hamburger commercial for like Burger Munch in the 80s or whatever, and it's like at first like and then it's like, this is horrific because it can't generate mouths very well. So they'll be like, and then like a weird tongue will come out and like lick the burger, or like their faces.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, their like hands are really bizarre. Yeah, they've got like extra fingers and stuff. So people they're doing crime with 6 fingers.
They're wanting to do crime.
It's a bestseller.
And they want.
It's time to do crime. So they're making fake fingers.
Yeah.
To do
fake fingers.
I don't know if that'll
Can
hold
you
up
put
in a court of
what about
law.
an ear? Like just put a third ear on the center of your forehead?
I don't know.
Is it other stuff or just fingers?
Right now, I think it's just fingers because it's the easiest.
If you start seeing ears out there when people are doing crime, you'll know.
We started that fellow's about to commit a crime.
If you see
He's got a 6 finger.
He's about to do a crime.
Yeah, like that man has 6 fingers. He's wanting to do a crime.
Oh man, the 6-fingered man from Princess Bride.
I know.
Well,
let's
let's
put context to AI. So I mentioned that I went to this Q conference, Think, a couple weeks ago, and there were a few talks on AI. But one of my favorites, I did talk about him, the Master Penman. His talk was on AI and how he is a creator and that we are made in the image of a creator. So people are going to be the ultimate creators, and so AI can't create from nothing because it's not in the image.
It creates from what we created.
Yes. So he was saying that like we're probably going to start to see old crafts come back, like his penmanship, and we've already started to see that kind of trend.
Macaroni plates.
Macaroni plates, yeah.
You just put plates and glue macaroni to it?
Oh. What?
Of course.
Or like tanneries, or people do like leather work and like woodwork, those sorts of things. Like those old crafts are going to start coming back and be in demand because they are handmade.
We went to the New Harmony Pioneer Days, and they do the paper. Have you seen that where they stain paper like in really old books, like before there's printing? Before they
put macaroni on it.
Then they put macaroni on the paper. No, but it's like the whole process was very fascinating because it's like they just take a blank piece of paper, but he has different oils in the water, and they make it out of, I think, the liver of like different stuff, like the bile in the liver.
Panthers.
Oh, gross.
But they do it because he's like, because it's water, but he's like, this water has to be heavier than this water, and so like the oils have to stay on the top, and then you take the paper and dip it in, and then but he like you put it on there, and then you comb through the oils and stuff to make these really cool patterns, and he dips it in, and then you have this unique paper. But I was like, this is really cool.
Well, I think it is interesting because I forgot where I heard this, but it was talking about you're talking about AI is when the photograph became a thing for the first time, and it could take pictures of people, and because for a long time people what they would paint is scenes that they would see in real life, and then when they photographed it, it's like, well, now you can just take a picture of something, but then the art style that a lot of people were making went a lot more abstract, so it totally changed the kind of art people were making because the new medium came in. So because of photographs, people just changed the way that they created.
It's crazy.
That's really crazy.
Jimmy made an AI YouTube channel.
It's true. You can, everything.
You can check out Jimmy's regular YouTube channel and watch that video.
So exactly. I recently read a book called A Psalm for the Wild Built, and I picked it up because first, it's a 2-book series, and it had the psalm was in the first title, and then the second title is like a hymn for something, and so I was like, this is interesting because it wasn't a Christian book. And so I read through the first one, and it's about a society that is way far into the future, but they kind of live like medieval times, because at one point all technology became sentient, and it asked basically all the technology asked the people to be separate. And so they left and went and lived in their own part of the world. And so all these people were left without technology. Oh. And so it's just about it's like a monk who there's just a strange kind of religion that's happening, but that's not really the point. The point is more of them living without technology and being okay with it. And how that their society lives. But at one point, this main character monk meets a robot. Whoa. And the robot comes out of the woods, and it's the first time in hundreds of years that anybody has seen technology. And the robot says I've come to seek what humanity wants, how we can help you. And nobody actually knows the answer to that question. They're like, what do we
sounds
want?
Really cool.
It's a really philosophical, just interesting concept. just something to think about. But it seems like our AI is heading us in that way where it's like we're kind of going backwards in these trades and like people building and like farming, people wanting to like have their own, being self-sustaining and stuff seems to be becoming more and more popular. And I think it's because technology is advancing us so much.
It sounds like the
people are getting worried.
The Horizon video games, you ever played those? Where it's like the dinosaur robots, like they made like the robots like figured out ways to make like they're like dinosaurs, but they're robots, and then like the people are like living like kind of Native American lifestyle, like off the land and stuff, but they have to go and hunt these dinosaur robots for parts to like maintain their society. It's pretty cool, but it's a video game. So, there's so much more. We'll probably do more AI stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk more about AI.
I mean, that's really fascinating. Like, what was the name of that book again?
A Psalm for the Wild Built.
A Psalm for Wild Bill. The Wild Built. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. We'll be back next week. I think next week we're going to talk about, I don't know what we're talking about next week, but we'll be here.
We'll be here.
Some reader comments. So if you ever have comments, just leave it on our YouTube channel or on Instagram,
Worldview.finder
and all that. So, all right, thanks. I'm Chris.
I'm Adrian.
And I'm Jimmy.
See you next time.